Hey everybody, I hope you guys are doing good. I hope y'all are well. I have a few visions I really need to share with y'all that I had. It's just two that I had earlier this month, and I really hadn't had time to film them. So I'm gonna make a video on that today. And then there's a few other things I want to talk about that I might just have to make a separate video for. But this one is more vision related. As you know, on my channel, I post whatever it is the Lord tells me to do, and whether it's a message of encouragement or something he has shown me in the spirit, or even, you know, hair videos to try to fish, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, let me go ahead and get straight to this. If you watched my last string of visions that I shared with you guys, you might remember me mentioning a particular man that I saw he was basically a terrorist, and he was a large leader for a group. And that is what this vision today, it was him again. And now that I'm just starting this video, as I prayed right before for Abba to lead me, he reminded me of another vision that I actually had at the very beginning of this month as well. He will literally pour out visions onto me, like sometimes for multiple days in a row. And honestly, sometimes they slip my mind before I even get around to making the video. So let me start off with that very first one before this one that I'm gonna say. I had a vision earlier this month, and it was either end of November or it was the beginning of this month, and it was actually, this was a different man, and he was from the Middle East, and the Lord had showed me a flag. So the flag that the Lord had shown me was 3 stripes. The top stripe was red, the middle stripe was white, and the bottom stripe was green. And there were 3 stars in the middle of the white part. And I don't know if anybody even has a flag that looks like that, but the Lord then began to show me each star, starting with the middle star, a red X over it, and then the left star, a red X, and then the right star, a red X. And it shifted from that to then I saw a particular man from the Middle East, whichever country this had involved, and he was rising to power in some type of way. And I saw him, he was wearing all black, and he had on this odd black hat that I had never seen anyone wear before. I'd like to say it looked like a sailor's hat, but it wasn't. It was just a regular, like kind of a rounded black just hat. I don't know, it was really basic, but it was dressy. And he had that on, and I saw him with 4 other people, and they all had champagne glasses. And at first, his champagne glass looked like it had like red in it, like red wine or something like that. And then as he went to toast with these 4 other people he was with, it just turned to champagne. Like then they all toasted champagne and drank champagne. And immediately from that, the scene kind of widened out, and it was him and those same people he was with, and then there was an additional 5 people added. So there was roughly about 10 people in this circle, and they were all sitting around, well, they weren't sitting, they were actually standing around this table, and it was a large table, and it looked like it just had like a map of the earth. If you've ever seen the UN map, it kind of looked like that. Like it was just a map of basically the globe if you took it and pulled it all up so it's all laying flat for you. And yeah, so I saw that, and I saw him standing around that table with all of those other people. And so that was that vision that day. And that's crazy that the Lord had brought that up to me, because I had wrote down my notes for this video and the particular vision to talk about, which was the more recent one about a week or two ago. And I had honestly completely forgotten about that one until I started this video. So thank you, God, for using me. So the next one is the one that is in relation to the string of visions I had that I posted on my channel. And hold on just a second. Okay, so the other vision I was going to start the video out with, talking about the same guy that was from my string of visions I posted from the other day. The terrorist that was like a leader of a group, right? I saw him again, but I saw pinpoints like all over the United States, like little orange pinpoints. And it just seemed to be vast, like it covered a lot of area. I don't know if that meant like as far as places that could potentially be a target, or places where maybe they're camping out, because that's what this vision had showed me. I saw the same man, and for some reason this time he had on a red, wrap around his head. And I saw that the amount of the camps that he was, I guess, in charge of or putting in place in the woods, just in random areas, guys. Like, the Lord has shown me this multiple times with this same person, and it's like he's putting on an operation that is not, it's not good. Let's put it like that. And it was just growing bigger. It's like in this vision, he was taking me back to what he had showed me the first time, where he was in the woods and it was at nighttime. And he was basically training. He was like giving class to a lot of students, so to speak. And but it was like it had expanded. It had expanded a lot. And there were more teenagers and young adult men. And this guy was so manipulative. Excuse me. So what he was teaching them this time was he was showing them, I remember specifically the Lord had put on my spirit, he was showing them the works of the Boston Marathon and 9/11, and then also the Kansas City bombing, which I later learned that wasn't done by particularly, I guess, you know what I mean. It wasn't done by the same people who did 9/11 or the Boston Marathon. But he was instructing, like he was going through and like showing all of these people he was trying to teach, like, I guess, different methods, different instruction, what we learned from this, what we learned from that, what we could do better from this, or, it was very disturbing to say the least. And he was also, as he was showing him those things, or showing all of these kids, I'm calling them kids, but they were just young people, he was showing them all of these, basically ways to go about planning attacks and carrying out the attacks. He was also showing them the memorials and praises, basically, that these people had received for doing what they had done, and how, like, in their hometowns and, their home countries or whatever, there would be memorials set up for them, like that their legacy would live on, so to speak. Just showing them how much praise was involved with this type of act. And then the Lord really put on my spirit that, I wrote this down specifically, that he is possessed by a spirit of manipulation, greed, and one of an AntiChrist spirit, full of hate for all of God's children in any countries, who may house many Christians as well as my beloved Israel. And then my vision continued for a moment, and I saw the same man who was in charge of this whole operation. I saw his eyes begin to have like just flames within them. And then I heard the Lord tell my spirit again. He began to say, his eyes want to see the world burn, for all of my children to burn, and complete destruction to come upon all. There is no collateral damage for him. He possesses so much evil, giving a dwelling place for all of the false gods within his hollowed heart. His filling and his loyalties lie with Shiva, Baal, Jezebel, Azazel, and many more that he calls Allah. Allah is a good choice word they chose, because once they left me out, there is no good to be found, but all of evil. I know that was a lot. Well, then the vision continued, and this is going to be the end of that particular little vision stretch. I then saw New York and New Jersey being bombed. The large screen, I guess there was a big screen. I'm assuming it's in New York. And I feel like I've seen it before. I'm not too familiar with the city, but I'm pretty sure there's a large screen somewhere in New York. And maybe the street makes like a Y. That's what I saw. Anyways, there was a lot of people on this street. Like, I'm not sure if cars could even drive through it or not. There was just a ton of people around. I saw bombs start to go off, like, kind of on the screen. And the screen began to, like, fall in and then just fall apart. And at the same time, bombs began to go off, like, in sequence from close to the screen, like, on each side of the street, 2 at a time. Like, boom, and then again, like, all the way up the block. It was, like, 2 at a time. And, yeah, I want to say, too, for one, like I said, there were people everywhere. And, that's, as far as, like, New York and New Jersey, I've had so many visions. I say so many. I've had several where those places, the cities are involved heavily, whether it is, I've seen earthquakes, I've seen, these acts of just catastrophe, terrorism, and yeah, I want to make that known. I'll talk a little bit more about that once I get done. This is the very last part of the vision. Right after I saw that, then the scene kind of shifted, and I could see the Statue of Liberty. And I don't know if this was the exact same time. I believe it was, but I'm just saying the scene shifted. And sometimes I feel like when the Lord shifts me from a scene, it doesn't always mean it's happening at the exact same time, but it could. I always like to let everybody know that. The statue began to shake as if there was an explosion, like, underneath it. And then I could see it start to crumble. Like, it didn't necessarily just all fall in very fast. Like, I guess the Statue of Liberty is stone. And it was just, like, pieces of stone and, like, rubble began to, like, fall off her. Like, it was, like, shaking. Like, literal, like, crumbs were, like, falling off of her. And it was shaking pretty violently. Let's see. And then after I saw this, the Lord put it really heavy on my spirit that, and once Lady Liberty, as America likes to call her, even though it is a man, and that man is Lucifer, once the statue falls, then look up, for the time is at hand, because as the statue falls, Then the Antichrist will rise shortly after. It is symbolic for the brass idols of the enemy, only being statues, but now their time has come for a short while to possess greater power on earth, and my children have no place there during that time. I know that was a lot, but yeah, so that's what he showed me pretty recently, guys. So I pray that you take that with a grain of salt. I pray that you take it back to the Lord. Take it back to the Lord. And don't go off my word. Take it to Abba. Get in your prayer closet and let him speak to you. Let him confirm things to you. Okay? And I thought that was crazy because I didn't I didn't know much about the Statue of Liberty, but I did a little bit of research into it, and or really just a little bit of thought too, that the Statue of Liberty is supposed to be the light bearer, right? Like, she's whatever it is. For one, you really can't tell if it is a male or female, like if you really think about it, and it's holding up a light. So whenever the Lord spoke that into my spirit and I got to thinking about it, I was like, wow, that's crazy. But anyways, so another few visions, that was pretty much the end of that, but there was a few other things I wanted to bring up that I don't think I've necessarily posted on this channel that I want to talk about, and a few that I have that I just kind of want to, I guess, touch on a little bit more, because it's it's all starting to kind of come together and starting to see it more and more, but even in a broader picture, I guess. So like I said a minute ago, I've seen New York and New Jersey a couple of times now with just disaster, to be honest with you. One of the very first visions I saw, I think it was closer to the very beginning of this year. It actually had to do with, from what I could tell, was massive earthquakes. And at the same time, when I look back on it, it could have been like all earthquakes, or it could have just been a line of just catastrophe and devastation in many ways. And that was a vision of, from basically all the way up into New York, all the way down here to the south, like in a slanted line, earthquakes, and then just something absolutely causing devastation, even from the, like I said, into New York, into Moore City, which I believed would have been like New Jersey, all the way down even into the mountain ranges, like the Appalachian Mountains, and down into Arkansas. I thought all of it was earthquakes when I first saw that vision, but to be honest with you, it could have very well been just incredible catastrophe. For instance, whenever we saw the hurricane hit North Carolina and Tennessee, some of the footage I saw of the mountains literally caving in was very similar to what I saw in this vision from earlier in the year. So that got me thinking, maybe it wasn't necessarily earthquakes all down this line that I saw. Maybe it was just devastation in places, right? But I did see the earth splitting in some spots, okay? And again, in like North Carolina, we saw the ground caving in. So like similar to that, I just feel like that was important to tell y'all. And I saw the exact same thing happening, but from the other side of the US, from like Washington State all the way down into Florida. There were just random spots where it was just catastrophe and devastation. And then I've also seen, so I saw those two things basically making an X. I saw that in one vision. And then a couple of months after that, I began to see visions of, for some reason, the 3 states on the West Coast. So Washington State, Oregon, and then California. I began to see devastation all through there. earthquakes in California and that sort of thing. Some things I could literally see, whether it was the ground splitting or shaking or something blowing up. I couldn't tell you an exact spot, an exact town or something like that. But as the Lord, when I was getting ready to touch on all of this, like the extra visions I wanted to throw into this video, specifically about the earthquakes, bombings, catastrophe, all that kind of stuff, the Lord began to reveal it to me. You know, remember whenever I remember seeing something a while back ago, whenever the eclipse happened, and the eclipse in 2017, I think it was. I remembered, I actually shared it on one of my social medias back in 2017, and it was the Olive and the Tav. And then it came up again as this eclipse had just come through this past year. And that was what the Lord had revealed to me. He was like, you see, my signature basically over America is exactly where you're seeing devastation roll through. And that really blew my mind, because at first I kind of had a hint of that whenever I saw the first X visions, basically from New York to the south, Washington State to Florida. But whenever lately, or throughout the summer and recently, I saw more visions of what seemed to be the West Coast. You know, the Lord revealed this to me today, basically, that now, this is all of the Tav, I guess. I should know that. But basically the Lord's signature. And yes, there's one other thing I wanted to mention. I also did have a vision of a big bell, and I can't tell you. I'm bringing this up because I think it was either in Washington State or it might have been in Alaska, but for some reason I feel like it was in Washington State, and it was it was in the area of where a harbor would be. I saw boats, and then I saw mountains like kind of in the background, and something began to shake the earth. I'm assuming it was an earthquake, but the earth began to shake and the boats began to rock in the harbor, and it was such a vigorous shake that there was a bell somewhere, it began to ring. And everybody who was like walking along this town that it was nearby and around the harbor, they all just stopped what they were doing. And once they heard the bell, they could tell that something was happening, that was unusual for something to obviously shake the boats like they were shaking, but it just came about so fast, and then the bell began to ring. And so I wanted to top that off with that. And then the last thing too, I wanted to remind you guys of the vision the dream that I had. It was on January 1st of 2024, and I have a video of that on my channel. It was, I had it on January 1st of 2024, but I didn't film it until the summer. And the Lord just revealed things over a couple of months to me, more about the vision. And I keep saying vision, that one was a dream. And, but that one was crazy. That one was the most intense one I have ever had. And it's on my channel. It's the mass deception during the end time. And it's a long video, guys. I know it is. That was one of the first ones I tried to film. And I even tried to refilm that one twice. And it still came out to the same length of time. But I pray that if you feel the need to go watch that, or any of my other past visions and dreams, if you feel led by the Holy Spirit to do it, then, please do. All I want to do is warn someone or be a messenger, if that is what the Lord is leading you to see, to know, and that the one particularly the deception one was so frightening because I've never had a dream like that where it was obviously very real time, and I could feel, I was in somebody else's thought process. I wasn't in my own body per se, but I was living that experience through somebody else's knowledge and understanding of what was going on, and their knowledge and understanding of Jesus, okay? And it was very sad. It was incredibly sad. And the main thing about that is we all need to be trying to bring as many people to Jesus as we can, and trying to instruct them on gaining a relationship with Christ, okay? Because that is what is ultimately important. When I had that dream, as I was experiencing it through another person's experience, the main thing was that what deceived them was that they did not understand that the one thing that the enemy cannot copy is God's love. So this false Jesus that was in the dream, he was doing miracles in a time of great distress. I'm telling you, everything that had happened in the dream was basically within Revelation. The ground had dried up, the water was toxic, even the fish were dying. He had come along in a time of great distress, and people were looking for help, basically. People were looking for a savior. And there were people in that dream who I knew, for some reason, I knew in the spirit that they were maybe they were a Christian at some point, or they did know about Christianity. They just did not know enough, okay? They believed that this false Messiah walking around, they believed to themselves that maybe this is what the second coming of Christ looked like. When we know that that's not the truth, we know that his second coming will be in the clouds. It will be a wrath, right? As far as when Revelation begins to play out and he does come back, whenever he steps foot back down on the earth, it will not be to do miracles and signs and wonders. It will be for his wrath, okay? And these people didn't know that, okay? And this false Messiah was bombarding them with an enchantment, with an enchantment of overwhelming peace. And I could feel it in my dream. I've never had a dream like that. And like I said, I prayed on that dream for months. I let Abba continue to reveal things to me about it because it frightened me so much. And take this back to the Lord as well. Take it all back to the Lord. If I'm telling you anything about any of my dreams or visions, take it to God, please. But they didn't know. They didn't know that that they were so overwhelmed by what felt like an angelic presence. It felt peaceful. It felt great. It felt like this person was going to save them, but he did not have that intention at all. He was copycatting. He was even walking on water, like Jesus did with Peter. He was copycatting everything Jesus did, but the one thing he couldn't copycat was giving you a feeling of actual love, filling that void within your heart. You know, there's a difference between feeling peace and feeling the love that Jesus fills you with. And that was the one thing he couldn't copycat. So knowing that by having a relationship with Christ, and then also knowing and being familiar with what the second coming looks like is important. I truly don't believe we were here. I don't believe that Christians were still there. I do believe that this could have taken place after the rapture. If it didn't, if we were still here, then either we were hiding out somewhere because I'm telling you, the only people that it was put on my spirit that they were Christian or they were familiar with it, they very well could have been left behind. I'm not really sure, just to be honest with you, but I know that they didn't know because they didn't have a relationship with Christ. And the more the Lord reveals to me, like I said, I don't think we will be here for that, thank God. I think we will see some hard times. And that's another video I'm fixing to make, probably right after this one. It's because I've seen a lot of prosperity messages and teaching and stuff. And I'm not saying that that is wrong at all. I think that is great. But I think there might be a little different meaning to that, a little bit more depth to that than people are taking it for. And I want to talk about that too. But yeah, I had to get you guys those recent visions I had, and I had to top them off with some of the ones I did have earlier this year that I don't think I ever posted. And then of course that last one about the deception. And like I said, even if you know in your heart too, like, we're not going to be here for that, let's not worry about it. Well, God still loves those people left behind, and they're getting a second chance for a reason. So I think I've said this in my videos before. If you know there are loved ones of yours or friends that you truly think might be left behind because of their lack of a relationship with Christ, they've never really tried to seek Him, or maybe they're not a believer at all, the best thing we can do is try to hammer on the topic enough of, knowing that Jesus is love, okay? And kind of hinting at them at what the second coming looks like. I know we have to be easy with our words, and I know we can't bombard people with the gospel all the time, right? Especially the ones who don't want to hear it. But I don't know, pray that the Lord uses you for those who have still not turned to Him yet, and stand in the gap for them, okay? Pray intercessory prayers for them. If they end up being left behind, if they just don't come to the Lord in time, then pray to the Lord, Abba, what can I do to help them for what is to come? Because it's not going to be anything you would wish your worst enemy on, for real. But yeah, so let's not be the Christians that just say, oh, we won't be here, we'll be fine, which, we're going to be fine regardless. But let's actually remember our Abba, our Father, and that He loves everyone, and that He wants as many to come to Him as possible, and that we are saved through grace, through Jesus' gift to us, the gift of salvation. He died on the cross for us, and our knowledge and knowing Him and knowing what is to come, we can't just sit back and say, okay, that's their problem, and not try to do anything about it. Not try to do any kingdom work for it. Not try to plant seeds where seeds could be planted. I know we can't do everything, but I hope that encourages you to maybe step a little faster for those who might be worse off, I guess, if that makes sense. But I pray that this be a blessing to y'all in a way. I pray it be encouragement to get you out and get you spreading the gospel. I pray that it be encouragement to know that God is with us and He will not forsake us, and that the time is at hand, okay? We need to keep looking up because our redemption draws near. All right, y'all have a good one, and y'all be blessed.